Everybody loves exciting ideas. Exciting ideas have a dual nature. They promise either complete disaster or incredible success. So in my job, I try and convince people to move the world forward, to go for the exciting ideas, not the mediocre one, the one that is nice and polite and safe. So in order to do that, for any of us in anything in life, you have to be convincing. You have to try and build, in fact, synergies between your own and someone else's imagination. Today I want to talk to you about a company that all of you know. This is a global corporation. It's been around for a long time. The owner of this company, a well-known figure, elusive, self-made billionaire, she spends, in fact, most of her time these days on projects close to her heart. The CEO, impressive, accomplished, multilingual, globe-trotting, predictably hardworking, always in the news. You've seen his face multiple times. And a company like this, of course, has a layer of super competent, well-organized management. In fact, in its earlier days, this company grew and grew. It became very powerful. It enjoyed market share that completely trounced the competition in key markets. It dominated its industry. Its influence and power actually reached all the way to the highest echelons of political power, and all the way down to the bottom, to the ground level, to consumers like you and me. Everybody assumed, in fact, that a company like this successful, with this kind of a war chest, these types of resources, this kind of market share, would continue to grow and forever be successful. It's very human to think that way when things are good. But instead, something else happened. The company fell into decline. It didn't stay ahead of the innovation curve. It was happy. Times had been too good. People had gotten too rich. That's where we find the company today, no longer nimble, no longer able to avoid the downhill slide. So at this point, you are supposed to wonder what company I'm talking about. And it's not Yahoo. It's not Mitsubishi car company or Motorola. If you remember that self-made billionaire that I talked to you about, that I mentioned initially. So in this story, that's in fact God. The business is the church, and the CEO, I'd nominate the Pope, and the managers are the bishops, the cardinals, the priests, the nuns. And we are the end consumers. We're the people who drive fundamentally the success or the downfall of any business. So let me explain before you think I'm totally mad or that I swear in church. I never do. I haven't lost my marbles. I just want to explain to you that actually the reason I choose this particular business is that I want to demonstrate to you that design thinking, and I'll explain what that is later on. It's designers like me thinking, yes, but it's basically a subject that extends beyond the realm of everyday life, and instead it can be applied to very intangible concepts such as faith and spirituality and everything in between. I grew up in church. In fact, I was, from the age of 12, the organist on the little beautiful picture postcard island where I grew up of 300 people. I grew up on a farm. And church represented community. I'm pretty sure it does to some of you guys here today. So you know that I will know, at least I know what I'm talking about, or my perspective is as valid as anyone else's. And so it's important for me that you realize I'm not actually trying to advocate or campaign for or against the church. I want to use it today just as a design case study. So one day I get a phone call. It's a fictitious phone call, but just imagine. It's an Italian phone number that I don't recognize. I'm thinking, wow, perhaps this is Italian sports car manufacturer calling with an exciting new design project. But alas, it's not. It's the Pope. He's sounding pretty bummed, pretty sad on the phone to me. He says, Per, just had my annual performance review with the boss. Didn't go very well. My job is in danger, and if I don't turn this business around, if I cannot turn this downhill slide into growth again, losses into profits, that's it. I'm out of a job. The Pope is actually getting pretty desperate, I realize, and he's tried everything. And now he's come to me. It's because he's heard about this design thinking thing. So he's asking, can we do something together? Can design thinking help a business like me, like ours? I love the challenge. Obviously, who wouldn't? I mean, try and help God fix this business. So the thing is, people all over the world, more than ever, say they believe in God. In fact, it's just that they turn their backs on a 2,000-year-old institution in favor of other things, other stuff, other faiths, other outlets for their emotional and spiritual needs. So typically in a situation like this, consultants, experts, talking heads like me, we whip out our toolboxes and we start looking at stuff. We analyze things like processes, the company's product lineup. Obviously, we'll look at the company's structure, and we might even look at something fairly abstract like its culture and ethos. We might end up as asking questions such as, are churches too cold? Is that the problem? Is the parking inadequate? Is Sunday morning a bad time? Anybody? Or more seriously, is it the fact that not all churches yet openly welcome female priests and people of all sexual orientations? Could it be that theology has become outdated, no longer relevant to the audiences and the problems of the world today? Or is it the lack of technology? That's a good one, right? Maybe churches need Wi-Fi and digital tools in order to appeal to us, always on our phones. So here's the thing, if these are the types of questions we're asking, very normal, rational, somewhat intelligent questions, then the answers are actually remarkably simple. Because we know how to make digital tools. All of you, I'm sure a bunch of you could get together and create some really good, useful digital tools for the church. Doable. Or how about including people we excluded before? That's actually something the church is doing, too slowly, but it's happening. So yes, doable. Clergy, we could provide them with education that resonates with the audience of today. Now, if these are the things that we're hoping will fix this business's problems, I'd venture that some of them will actually help stem the flow, but I do also think that none of them will turn the tide. The church is growing out of touch. This is a common criticism among people who don't believe and people who, like me, actually just struggle to believe in God. So is there a way of turning 2,000 years worth of history from cumbersome baggage into fuel for future growth? Two more things that designers do in addition to going through the checklist of analytical tools. We utilize human instinct and empathy. Strange words. They're also not easy to measure. But what they do is they help us just as much as research and analysis, in fact. In fact, it's the combination of this rational with the less rational that help us to identify something that we refer to as the heart of the matter. Everything has a heart of the matter. Now, Let me give you an example of this. So basically, people have mentioned a couple of times here today autonomous vehicles or self-driving cars. You've seen visions or concepts of these where people sit, kind of like you actually, here on the front row, chilling out, looking at each other around tables, doing stuff. Certainly not driving. But there's one problem with that. A lot of you get car sick. This is a non-obvious problem, just hiding in plain view that nobody seems to tackle. So then the question is, in the church, in the predicament of God, is there such a problem? A car sickness type of component to consider, to search for. So what we do know about the church is that it is earthly and it's a human construct in some ways, arguably. God is divine, but humans are human. So are there any things that can be learned from other earthly corporations? Best practices that can be adopted by the church in order to change things around and improve the business. Apple and Coca-Cola are two examples of two companies that enjoy a huge following. People like their products. People love their products. In fact, some might argue people worship their products. So an ideal Sunday for some is cold Coca-Cola in this hand and on the phone in this, outside the Apple store. But the thought of going to church makes you drag your feet, or at least me. I drag my feet at that thought. But these companies, in other words, have successfully created emotional connections with you all. So here are some common associations with each company. With Apple, there is delightful simplicity, awe, loyalty. With Coca-Cola, there is joy, the holidays, celebration. All across the world, when people open a can of Coke, they feel a slight hint of nostalgia for America. In fact, it's the promise of a meaningful emotional experience, however small and brief, that inspires us to come back to these companies again and again for more and more. So let's try that same exercise with this business of ours that we're talking about today, the church. I can talk for myself. Rigidity, exclusivity, antiquity, stale air, men in dresses, guilt, shame. Okay, I feel some of you feeling slightly uncomfortable at this endless list of negative things, but obviously the church is doing amazing, meaningful, lasting things around the world that are positive. But those are not the problems. Those are not the reasons that it's, in fact, a business in decline. So, in the case of the church as a business, the connection between God and man, us humans, is becoming weak. This is problematic because without human connections, without human emotions, without an emotional connection, we disconnect. We may show up to church, but then we switch off. We become disinterested. We pretend we listen. It's because we're not feeling it. So then I would venture that perhaps this is it. The heart of the matter is the simple recognition of a highly emotional, non-rational need to just feel good. Apple, Coca-Cola, tons of other companies around the world, other services, television, stuff that makes us feel good. Guilt and shame just can't compete. So now I used a slightly compressed version of design thinking to illustrate that any faith, any religion, if any of you guys are planning to create a sect or a cult, you need to transcend and defy rationality and instead create human connections. Connect with the emotional. I think you think I have problems and challenges. I assume you do too. Design, in fact, is all about solving problems. Easy problems that you associate with design is to fix something ugly and make it beautiful. Or you can also use it to actually improve the pipeline of a business. Regardless of the problem, for every single one of you, you have the capability to actually just use design thinking in every single day of your lives, in the challenges that you face. All you need to do is to identify the heart of the matter. Thank you.